guys, welcome back to part 3 of our high school planning series. If you didn't catch parts 1 and 2, you'll want to go back and watch those and then revisit this video. Today we're going to build out that high school plan template that I gave you in the last video. I will relink that printable below here in the comments. If you haven't printed that template yet, go ahead and pause this video, print it out, and then you'll be able to follow along. The question for today is, how do we take this big blank sheet of 4 years and actually fill it in with classes for our child? Let me start by saying this is not a curriculum review or recommendation video. I won't be sharing what we've used, what we've loved, etc. You can find tons of those videos with just a simple search on here. The purpose of this video is to help you get comfortable with thinking out your child's high school credits. Another thing I want to mention before we begin, in mapping out your child's high school plan, you do want to know whose guidelines you're going to follow. As we discussed in the prior videos, in a perfect world, your child would know exactly what college they want to go to. You would research their admission requirements, and you would make sure that you were fulfilling those credits. In a more realistic world, if your child does not know what career they would like to go into at age 14, rightly so, you will need to follow the state or county requirements for a diploma in order for your homeschool child to graduate with a transcript that is right on par with their peers. Okay, now we put on our guidance counselor hats. I promise this is kind of fun if you're nerdy like me. Start with your easy subjects. These are most likely going to be math and language arts. Confirm with your state guidelines, but most states are going to require 4 years of math and 4 years of language arts to graduate. Our county requires 4 years of math at the level of Algebra 1 or higher. If you've been homeschooling for a while, you probably know which math curriculum works for your family. So go ahead and plug in those 4 years. Make sure you add in any extra requirements. It's pretty common to require a course in geometry, either a half credit or a whole credit. So keep your eye out for those specifications. Language arts will likely be the same. If you know what curriculum you like and what you are planning to continue to use, go ahead and plug in those 4 years. They're usually organized by grade level and encompass a variety of different subjects such as literature, writing, spelling, grammar. All of those things are usually packaged into a level course for each grade. So go ahead and pencil those in. If you don't know what math or language arts you're going to use throughout high school, like I said earlier, it's time for a little bit of research, but we'll get back to that. Moving down to science and social studies, high school science guidelines for graduation usually require a lab component and some sort of specification such as 3 years of biology and higher. I've mentioned it before, but you're going to want to start thinking about how you can fulfill those lab requirements. Now, it can certainly be done at home, but this is where I believe that outsourcing your homeschool becomes very valuable in these high school years. If you are not Superwoman and you don't relish the thought of doing physics labs at home, then you will want to look around at some options in your area. Local co-ops who hold science classes and do labs is one option. Dual enrolling, where your child actually takes their science class at a local college and earns credit for both high school and college, is another great option. There may also be online virtual school options that fulfill lab requirements, but I don't have experience with those courses, so I can't really speak to them. So roughly jot down a plan for those science credits, and then you can approach social studies the same way. Take into account special requirements. Some common ones are US history, world history, half a credit in US government, half a credit in economics. Just map out those things as far as what is required. Again, you don't need to know exactly what you're going to use yet. If you already know that your child wants to go into a field of study that is strong in science or social studies, you may want to beef up that portion of their transcript and maybe include an extra course or two that isn't actually required for graduation, but it will help their transcript look more attractive to colleges. Now just continue to plug in a rough plan as you move down your list. You're likely going to see a fine arts credit requirement. You may see some PE, physical education. You may see some foreign language in your state requirements. Online course requirements are common. And then of course you'll have a chunk of elective credits. Again, all of these can be fulfilled entirely at home if you have phenomenal motivation, persistence, and you can keep those things going and keep great records. But you will usually find that most homeschool moms are turning to outsourcing at this point for elective credits and so on. This is where virtual school online with our state and also our local homeschool co-op has really filled some gaps for us. And if you've ever pondered teaching calculus or physics at home, you probably know what I mean as far as outsourcing becoming very attractive to you. Plus, it's usually good if your child has not had experience in a classroom setting yet to get them kind of wetting their feet with what it's like to have a teacher, have deadlines. Also, they'll usually generally enjoy getting out and having some variety as far as their classes. The electives is where the planning gets really fun. So an elective is just a class of your choosing. You can choose these based on your child's interests or what kind of field they're interested in. Classes that just sound fun. You can add Bible in here, foreign language in here. The possibilities are endless. Other things you may want to cover within your electives would be maybe personal finance, maybe some SAT or ACT prep. I generally recommend choosing a packaged curriculum for your elective credit. Again, unless you are really on top of things and motivated to put together an entire course and to keep track of that for credit. In that case, go for it. And we will cover those record-keeping requirements in a future video. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Focus on the year that is ahead of you and then roughly sketch beyond that. Please don't plan out 4 years of curriculum and go order 4 years of curriculum. So many factors are likely to change over your child's high school years, and you want room for flexibility. This was especially hard for me to learn, but after I had planned out all 4 years twice and had to scrap everything, I finally learned my lesson. Only focus on the year ahead of me. We've covered a lot of the technical work that's involved in planning for high school, but let's just take a second to focus on what is actually most important. High school is a big deal, and as homeschool moms or dads, we're under a tremendous amount of pressure to get this right. Homeschooling all the way to graduation is a huge undertaking, and naturally we want to give our kids the best chance starting out and going off to college. We have to make sure that we don't lose sight of our most important job though, and that's guarding their hearts. School can be done a million different ways, but what we're most concerned with is guiding these whole human beings through these really complex years in their life. I know you could not pay me to go back and be a teenager again. Doing that with love and compassion is so important primarily, and fulfilling all these credits needs to take a back seat at the end of the day. So I have a couple more things to consider as we're choosing our high school courses. First, take into consideration your child's interests and their personality. We're going to be doing this naturally as parents. Obviously, we want school to be as enjoyable as it can be for our kids, which also translates to less boredom, less arguing, you know. But their personality is a big factor too, especially in high school when they're just starting to spread their wings a little bit. Will your child be miserable sitting at home in front of a computer all day? Do they need the accountability or even the energy of being in a classroom setting? Are they working and they need a lot of flexibility in their schedule? These are all really important things to consider. Also, you want to consider your relationship with your child. High school work is largely independent, yes, but you are still going to have to work with your child on planning, grades, accountability, and so forth. So do you envision 4 years of butting heads on a daily basis as those analytical minds are just blossoming and challenging you every day? Would it guard your relationship with your child to have them be accountable to someone else besides you as their mom? All of these things get really tricky as you enter those older years. So I just want to encourage you that you can continue to homeschool while outsourcing a good deal of that to other people. This issue was a really critical turning point in our homeschool, where I had to come to terms with the fact that my beautiful Charlotte Mason style plans for my daughter's 4 years of high school were just not compatible with her personality and our relationship. So we did have to switch to a more traditional method of homeschooling, but it guarded and preserved our relationship, which always comes first. So take care and preserve that relationship above all else. There's always another way to get school done. I hope this has been helpful in taking steps to planning for high school. Once your child actually begins earning their high school credits, you'll want to be recording grades, documenting their credits, and beginning to build a transcript. So be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you can see when I post future videos on those topics. Remember, hearts first, school second. We'll see you next time.
What's up, Internet? It's Christy. Today we're going to be planning for high school. You take this paper and you're going to write what your kid went through, the torture that your kid went through. And we're going to go to the top. We're going to see ELA. Here you're going to write how much your child has established loss of awesomeness. And then you're all set and you bring your little handwritten page to the college and you're like, bruh.
No, take my kid.